Hello and welcome to A Slice of Pie, the weekly news-ish show that we do on this channel. It is a little delayed, but that's because right now, heading towards us is a hurricane. And the day that I was supposed to record, edit, and post this, I went out and got hurricane supplies because procrastination. Actually, to be completely honest, we had a case of water that we bought a week prior under the guise that hurricane season was only just about to get bad. We went ahead and we got a couple of extra things, some snacks, because you just need snacks. In fact, for hurricanes, you only really need three things: water, alcohol, and snacks. As long as you got those three things, you're fine. And then board games if you really want to deal with it. But we've got plenty of those. So, snacks. We mostly needed snacks. So, as you can imagine, much like the last time a hurricane hit Florida, we are going to be recording the entire process. And this time, we have a GoPro, which is waterproof and shock resistant. So, we might try to get a time lapse of the thing rolling in. We still don't know if it's going to hit us directly or if it's going to just do what it's supposed to and go up the coast. Now, if it goes up the coast, we're still just going to have tropical storm winds and lots and lots of rain. But if it hits us directly, well, it's going to become a much bigger deal. Either way, we're going to have probably some early footage of that storm that we can mix into the vlog that I've been recording and haven't had enough time to deal with because, storms, and they really put a damper on, being able to go out and skate and do that whole segment. I am going to be working on a video after this where we're going to upgrade the razor blade. It's going to be interesting because this is the first time I've done a video of this nature where I'm actually just focusing on improving one aspect of a build. And it's all about the hard drive because currently we can't exactly record to the blade. It has a 2 terabyte drive in it, which is great. But that same 2 terabyte drive has such a low write speed that we end up actually having jumps and jitters inside the recording that make it look very unnatural and honestly quite horrible, actually. And there's no way to really edit them out because they're so consistent. And so we've decided that we're going to convert the Razer Blade from more of a gaming notebook to more of a production notebook by putting a new SSD in place of that hard drive. Now, you could put games on it, but it's actually only a 520 gigabyte SSD, so it's not really going to be used as a gaming computer while that happens. But at least we'll have another production computer on hand. And if we lose power, or even if we really don't lose power, we do kind of plan on recording a bit of GreaterThanPie tabletop, essentially, where that alcohol and those board games will come into play. Now, I don't know if this is actually going to come out because it kind of could suck or it could be awesome. I don't know yet. This is a new experiment for us. So we'll see how that comes together. And then I am also editing together the final parts of Nova Build. I just need to do one thing and I can't do that right now because the storm. I need to go over to Lowe's and get some acrylic and build the mod to the computer so I can finish everything. Plus I'm going to change the liquid back to green because I actually really liked the green and purple and the whole RGB thing. I haven't really changed it at all, so I digress. Nova Build Part 4 is still in the works. I just need to finish Nova Build and then that will come out. I think it's Part 4 at this point. Probably Part 4. With that though, we're going to move into game news because we got an interesting one to actually talk about that I don't think too many other channels have picked up on. So to start off, a little bit of history behind this one. So I was watching a video that actually detailed the lost content in Monkey Ball. It's actually a video by another YouTuber called Tetra Gaming. I'm linking their video in the description. But there is something in there that was called a lighting test, which actually allowed you to test the Gamecube's lighting capabilities with a couple of different objects. You could move the light source, and it would cast a dynamic shadow. Now this was interesting because there was a mode in there that actually looked very similar to how ray tracing works today. In fact, if I might go as far as to say it, it actually looks like the GameCube had ray tracing capabilities years before it was put into a graphics card, meaning ATI had already figured out that technology. Which is strange since AMD themselves have not input it into their graphics cards. Now that being said, it could have been a primitive form of ray tracing, but it did seem like it was some sort of ray tracing, especially when it comes to the dynamic shadows, the one that the Tomb Raider game uses, and honestly, it looked really good. It's weird to think that a piece of technology from, I think, over 10 years ago is doing what Nvidia is now pushing on their graphics cards. And who knows, this might actually be a super simple technology that's being overcomplicated for the sake of fidelity, but I digress. As a game developer, I could tell what they were doing was not baked lighting, and that is big, because non-baked lighting is difficult to do. So, the GameCube essentially had ray tracing, which is kind of awesome. And I don't really think that many people have actually talked about it. I did a quick Google search and looked up GameCube ray tracing, and it's mostly people saying, oh, the Dolphin emulator now has ray tracing, which, cool, but the actual GameCube could do that. And to add on to that, the Dolphin emulator has never been a perfect emulation of the GameCube. It's always had issues with certain graphical effects, and it often happened with reflections. And if the GameCube was using a form of ray tracing, that would make a lot of sense, since computer hardware hasn't really started to support real-time ray tracing until now. So, conspiracy? I think so. Actually, no, it's not really a conspiracy. It's just that the GameCube was an impressive piece of technology that was a little ahead of its time, actually very ahead of its time. And still to this day, I know of many gaming computers that cannot emulate it. Dark is an indie game that was actually made inside, I think, Blender and then taken to Unity. And it is a kind of adventure, creepy, platformer-y thing. It's actually a really cool looking game, and I've been watching its development for the last couple years. I think it started in 2015. They actually turned down Epic Games for a promise of guaranteed revenue, meaning they were given the same thing that Ooblets was given. They turned it down because they believed that they had actually built too much of a fan base on Steam, and there were too many pre-orders on Steam, and that they did not actually want to shoot their own company in the foot. Now this is actually probably a pretty smart move, especially because, as I said, I've been watching it for years, and I've been watching it kind of closely as it's being developed. So because of that, it actually turns out that they're being kind of heralded as, I guess, a really good force in the industry. It's hard to explain what they're being touted as. But they did lay down a challenge for Epic Games. If Epic Games would allow them to put the games on there without an exclusivity deal, they would actually donate all of the money that they make from the Epic Games Store to charity. And the community or Epic Games could even decide that charity. Now, I think Epic really should actually take them up on this, because then it proves that Epic's talk about being a developer-friendly company would at least be in fruition. WoW Classic was a much bigger deal than Blizzard anticipated, to the point that there are retro wait times. I haven't seen a wait time login thing forever, to be completely honest. I digress. Blizzard is so blown away by this that they are actually going to possibly make some money this year, where they thought they were pretty much making a loss and just throwing out a product that nobody wanted. So we'll see what happens after the hype dies down and if people actually stick around, but RuneScape Classic did actually do quite well and actually bolstered the company back up that made RuneScape. Now RuneScape is a much smaller game than WoW, and WoW's expansions were essential to maintaining its player base. So what are they gonna do now? Are they gonna make new Classic content? That would be one way to make things kind of interesting. Making WoW Classic different, like almost a different timeline, would be one way to actually continue development for it. And then finally, if you were wanting to get your hands on that new Nintendo Switch, how would you go about it? Did you just go to the GameStop and say, hey, I want your newest SKU? I wouldn't do that. In fact, actually look for the box. The box for the new Nintendo Switch is actually very different than the old one. The old box had a Nintendo Switch featured right across the front, but the new one actually is an all red box with the Joy-Cons prominently positioned on the screen and Nintendo written across it. I actually saw the box the other day and went, oh, so that's how they're going to make it so that people don't accidentally buy the old Nintendo Switch when they're trying to buy a new Nintendo Switch with the better battery and processor in it. And with that, we're going to wrap into tech news because now we've started talking about processors and microprocessors, so. GlobalFoundries is currently suing TSMC over patent infringement. Now, TSMC has responded saying that they have done nothing wrong and that they did not in fact infringe on the patents. But if GlobalFoundries is actually proven to be correct in that their patents really were infringed on, then Nvidia, Google, Qualcomm, Apple, and even Nintendo would be affected indirectly because Nintendo has their chips manufactured by Nvidia for the Nintendo Switch. And I think they used Qualcomm for the Nintendo DS. So, unfortunately, there are a lot of companies that would get wrapped up into this, and it would be a pretty rough deal. It would actually cause all of the products that are used with the infringing patents to either be A, blocked from being sold, or B, having every single one of the companies that have an infringing item pay GlobalFoundries for patent use, which has happened. Nintendo had to pay a certain amount for, I think it was the Wii U, because it infringed on a patent. The 3DS. The 3DS was the one that had the big one that they had to like spend like 10 cents per 3DS sold or something like that to the patent. I digress. This could be a big deal. That being said, apparently the 7 nanometer, because AMD actually uses TSMC at that place. They use them a lot, but 7 nanometer apparently is not infringing on that patent. So, Navi GPUs and new Zen processors will not be infringing on it. So, that's the only reason AMD wouldn't be affected. That being said, Nvidia could just as easily go to 7 nanometer. I'm sure Qualcomm can do the same thing, to be completely honest. Like, the technology is currently progressed far enough that I think all these companies could just switch to 7 nanometer. Facebook is now allowing you to actually delete the information they have on you. Sort of like a Facebook incognito mode, would allow you to actually completely wipe the servers of your data. That being said, this is Facebook, and they are going to get that data no matter what. If a Facebook-based ad service is embedded into any other website, they're going to get that data again. Now, you can continuously delete it, so, I mean, positive and maybe? Maybe it's a positive. Either way, for those who are worried about Facebook having their entire identities and ready to clone them at any moment, you might be able to foil that plan for 5 minutes. Apple's new credit card gets stained by blue jeans. That's what happens when you have an all-white card without a glossy finish on it to protect it. And that's exactly what Apple did, because, Apple likes aesthetics over functionality. Razer opened a store in Las Vegas. Now, this is actually pretty exciting because this might actually be the closest Razer store that there is to my location. Granted, Las Vegas is still across the country, so there is that kind of problem, but at least it's in America, and Las Vegas doesn't sound like a bad vacation now. Never really did sound like a bad vacation. They just need to build one in Miami or something, and I can go there. And then finally, another story that not a lot of people are really talking about. Sound Blaster is about to strike back in the PC building world. Now, those who've actually used Sound Blaster products in the past know that they actually really do sound better than onboard audio. But onboard audio has slowly been taking up that space. Currently, my PC's onboard audio is amazing. And I've not had a single bad experience on the AM4 platform with onboard audio. Unlike the AM3 platform where I had some pretty bad audio, and that's when I used my Sound Blaster. But Sound Blaster is striking back with a audio card that's like $360 with its own DAC and ports for the XLR ports, the big jacks. So honestly, they're striking back with features that you currently really can't put into your PC motherboard, and it's awesome. The thing looks amazing, and if it weren't $360, I would be interested in putting it into my computer. But it's $360, so probably not going to happen. That being said, it is pretty cool to see this company still kicking around, as they really do make amazing products. I've actually purchased their DACs before. I've had their sound cards before. They're really good. Just currently their old aesthetic doesn't fit with my new computer. You know, all this green and purple and stuff, and then there's like that one red sound card. It just doesn't look right. And with that, I'm going to wrap up. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, you can leave a like, comment, subscribe. We do this video once a week. Sometimes it's a little late because of natural disasters. But other than that, we're pretty dedicated to bringing you tech and game news. So I thank you guys again. Wolfie